outspoken Republican who has been against shutting down the government is New York Congressman Peter King. Representative King sits on the Homeland Security Committee, and he's joining me now from Long Island, New York. Mr. Congressman, good to see you. So earlier in the week, you were against the proposal that avoids a government shutdown while defunding the president's health care reform. Let's listen to what you told our Dana Bash on Capitol Hill.
We can't let the government shut down. We can't be kamikazes, and we can't be General Custer.
But then, Congressman, yesterday you voted for the measure, and you even compared that measure to that suicide mission. So why did you ultimately vote for it?
Because it was the only way to keep the process going. Ted Cruz and others in the Senate had said if we sent this over to them, that it would be successful in the Senate. I know it's not going to be, but otherwise we never would have gotten anything out of the House. And now it goes to the Senate. The Senate, I assume, is going to strip it out, and they'll send it back to us. They'll send another bill back to us, and that's when the real negotiations began.
All right, so you are counting on, so you are counting on those changes that would ultimately happen in the Senate, and you're okay with that, the portion that defunds the president's health care plan. Your bottom line is you want to keep the government going. So do you think you're going to like that Senate plan after those amendments are made, you and other House members who voted for this measure?
I would hope so. I would hope that the Senate, even if some Republicans are not being responsible, that the Senate will be responsible, that they will send us a bill which does keep the government open through December 15th, but also has some reasonable cuts in it, ones that we can both agree on. I think if the Senate and the House leaders definitely want to negotiate, they can do it. I'm convinced John Boehner does not want to shut the government down. Eric Cantor does not want to shut the government down. This was an opportunity, yesterday's vote, to let some people get out of their system about Obamacare. But I'm hoping the Senate sends back a reasonable bill. And if there's disagreements, let's start negotiating it right away so we can get this resolved by September 30th.
But you can see how many Americans are getting very confused about this, because you're saying that you believe that, Cantor and Boehner certainly want to keep the government going, but they are on board with this plan that says there has to be this contingency plan, that Obama's health care has to go in order to keep the government going. So how can you have it both ways? Yeah, that's the situation people like Ted Cruz have put us in. They have gone around all summer somehow convincing grassroots Republicans that we could just defund Obamacare, send it to the Senate, and it's going to be done. If yesterday's bill was not sent over to the Senate, I know this sounds confusing, there's no way anything would have moved forward. I'm hoping now that it's in the Senate, we can have real negotiations begin. The Senate will send something back to us that's reasonable, and whatever differences there are can be worked out by October 1st. This is not the way to run a government. It's not the way it should be done. It's trying to make the best of a very bad situation that's been created by people like Ted Cruz and Mike Lee. Well, you've called a fraud. You've called Ted Cruz a fraud, yet he seems to be, getting a lot of support if Boehner and Cantor are on board with his plan. And then you keep using the word reasonable, too, and that's where I guess it seems difficult to discern whose idea is reasonable.
Well, first of all, as you know, last week, John Boehner did not want to include this in the continuing resolution. It was only done as a way to get the bill out of the House and let the Senate see if they can get it done. Ted Cruz had told us if we send it to the Senate, it'll get done. So now it'll go to the Senate. We'll see it cannot be done. It'll show that he was being fraudulent all summer when he was peddling the false story that somehow this can be resolved in the Senate and we can get back and get down to real serious business. Again, this is not the way it should have been done. It's the situation that the House was put in, and I went along with it yesterday for the purpose of moving the process forward and hopefully exposing these small group of Republican senators who are holding the entire Congress hostage.
Okay, so before I let you go, Congressman King, you feel pretty confident that the government will continue to keep operating after October 1, that a deal can be reached?
I believe so. I know a solid majority of House Republicans do not want the House to shut down in any way, and we will do whatever we can. Whatever has to be done, we'll see. But I am confident that the House will not shut down, and if it does, then it's a real black eye for all of us.
All right, Congressman Peter King, thanks so much for your time this Saturday. Appreciate it.